This session is going to explore what makes a community dementia friendly through the eyes of people who live with memory loss, family caregivers, and the perspective of a national nonprofit focused on this goal. And I'd like to start by introducing Mary Eck with Dementia Friendly America, who will help set the stage for the topic. And then I'll turn it over to our panelists and we'll hear from their own personal perspectives. So Mary Eck is the program director for Dementia Friendly America, a national initiative administered by US Aging. And through her work, she supports dementia-friendly communities and Dementia Friends administrators by providing technical assistance, facilitating webinars and collaboration among stakeholders, and managing the development of dementia-friendly resources. She has a bird's eye view into how communities across the US are working to become dementia-friendly, and today she'll kick things off by sharing a bit about this work. So with no further ado, I'd like to welcome Mary Eck to give us a little intro to dementia-friendly communities.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so thrilled to be joining the great state of Washington today to highlight and learn more about dementia-friendly communities. And I was actually so excited that I reversed the time change. I'm from Minnesota, and I was actually ready at 7:15 to jump on. And so here I am. It is 11:15 where I am. So I've been up and ready, and just so thrilled to be here. As Mary Grace said, my name is Mary Eck. I am the director of Dementia Friendly America. And I want to thank Mary Grace and all of you who are participating today for inviting me to join you. It is an honor and a privilege to be here with you. I began this work in Minnesota in 2011 with Minnesota's Act on Alzheimer's, and that is the state initiative from which Dementia Friendly America was born and adopted at the White House Conference on Aging as a national initiative in 2015. And what began as only 6 pilot communities is now a network of over 400 communities across 43 states nationwide. And we also have 148,000 dementia friends in the US, and you'll have an opportunity in other sessions of the conference to learn more details about that. So I hope you join those sessions. It's been exciting for me to come back into this work. I was away from the work physically. I was always here in spirit, but to come back to Dementia Friendly America as the director 2 years ago and see just the continued momentum of this work, and to see how much we've grown since 2015 and making it through a pandemic and growing throughout that pandemic. And as you all know, the need, the awareness of the need was heightened during the pandemic, and we are responding. And now, with dementia being recognized as an issue of public health, we're bringing in even more people to this work and recognizing the importance of it. And we are grateful to have the resources to support these efforts. As many of you know, Dementia Friendly America's mission is to increase dementia awareness, reduce stigma, provide quality dementia-friendly resources, education, and support that fosters the creation of environments where people living with dementia and their care partners can live, work, play, engage, and thrive in community with others. And you'll be hearing examples of that throughout today. And we have so much happening that we're having trouble keeping up with all of the great work that's happening out there. And we can't take credit for all of that as Dementia Friendly America, but we can inform people of the work that is happening out there. We have, interpretations of our curriculum for dementia friends. We have it in over 18 languages so that we can embrace communities, more communities with this work. We're adapting it to serve Native American and Alaska Native populations, the IDD population. And it's just, we are so inspired by our network, always finding more ways to build our circle of community and engage people in this important work. As you know, at DFA, we believe every member and every sector of the community has a role in creating dementia-friendly communities. And at the very center of our work, and those we turn to inform our work, are people living with dementia and their care partners. So it is my absolute pleasure to introduce our opening session in our words, what a dementia-friendly community means. Coming together to explore what makes a community dementia-friendly through the eyes of people living with memory loss and family caregivers are, well, please help me welcome Gary Ferguson, Jean Harris, Elsa Lee, and Sarah Parkhurst. Mary Grace, I'll let you take it from here to get the panel started and ask some questions of our panelists.
Thank you so much, Mary. Thanks for setting the stage there. And I will share my slides one more time. Yes, again, I'll join Mary in welcoming our panelists, Gary Ferguson, Elsa Lee, Jean Harris, and Sarah Parkhurst, all of whom have a personal connection to living with memory loss, whether experiencing memory loss themselves or caring for another friend or family member with memory loss. And I am so pleased that we have the privilege to hear from each one of them around what a dementia-friendly community really looks like today. And I will, we have several questions to pose to our panelists. I'm going to go ahead and put those in the chat as we go through, so you'll be able to refer to the questions as we go. But the first question, I'm going to just give the panelists a chance to introduce themselves and their connection to memory loss or caregiving. So Gary, I will start with you. If you could go ahead and just let us know, what is your connection to living with memory loss or caregiving?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Gary Ferguson, really honored to be a part of our panel today and this important dialogue around dementia-friendly communities. I am a research associate professor at Washington State University's IREACH, which stands for the Institute for Research and Education to Advance Community Health. We're an institute focused on health equity within Indigenous communities primarily, and also Latinx and other initiatives for rural Washington and across the nation. I am originally from Alaska, and am originally from a very small community called Sandpoint, and then lived in Cold Bay, where my parents lived until my mom had healthcare conditions that required her to be in the big city of Anchorage, and my dad now has a home there, and I'll be talking about my relationship with both him and the journey of dementia, as well as my grandparents, which I had the honor of helping take care of for their final years of their life as well. So really honored to be a part of our panel today. Good morning.
Thank you, Gary. And Sarah, how about you? What is your personal connection to memory loss or caregiving?
Well, I was diagnosed with MCI years ago. And at that time, I had no idea what it was, and neither did most of the people I talked to. I did share my diagnosis with a lot of people, and my mother had Alzheimer's, and my younger sister has Alzheimer's, and I think my grandparents had dementia, but that was long ago when they didn't, I think they called it senility or something back in those days. In any event, I have just been so appreciative of the things that are offered by in Seattle, the Greenwood Senior Center. There are support groups that have been so helpful over the years. I've done zoo walks and different walking groups that the Greenwood Senior Center arranges. There are exercise classes through the park department. At least there were before COVID, and they were specifically for people who had memory problems, because, you know, it used to be that they'd tell you to do an exercise and then they tell you to do 16 more afterwards, and you were still on the first one. And it was a little disheartening. So that class was wonderful. And I don't think they have it now, but maybe they'll reinstate it. But I've also, I think one of the things that's so important is volunteering. So I've had to ratchet down some of the things that I was doing before, not just because of COVID, but because I can't do them any longer. So I've tried to find other things to fit in the slots. But I think, you know, because I don't know where my MCI is going to go in the future, I feel very fortunate that I live where I do, because I know it's better here than a lot of places who are still not as aware of memory loss, dementia, Alzheimer's, and so forth.
Thank you, Sarah. Great to have you here. For those that may not be familiar with that acronym, MCI, that stands for mild cognitive impairment. I'll try and mention acronyms as we go. Jean, welcome. Would you care to share what is your personal connection to memory loss or caregiving?
Certainly. Good morning, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. My connection is rather deep. I am the daughter of both mother and father who were diagnosed with dementia. And they were people who lived vibrant lives before that, and it was just very difficult to see their progression into the disease. And as a result of that, I became very passionate about seeing that there were services and involving myself in any way I could, volunteering, doing personal care partnering things. And I just want the word to be spread. Things are happening in the community for support for family members and for people who are living with dementia themselves. And I was thinking of the song, like a snowball rolling down the side of a snow-colored hill. It's growing. And so I want to be part of that growing. For myself, I've been being watched for a while, both because I have such a strong family history going up several generations, but also because I'm having some changes that are not normal for a person in my age group. I'm glad to be here. I'm looking forward to sharing, and that's me.
Thank you, Jean. Welcome. And Elsa, what is your personal connection to memory loss or caregiving?
Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mary Grace, for inviting me to this panel. I have the connection I have with memory loss is because my father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's several years ago. And that happened after my mom passed away, and they were in Australia at the time. So me and my brother has to move my dad from Sydney to Seattle, and we started to care for my dad individually, either in my brother's home in Seattle, or sometimes, because I'm from California, so sometimes my dad will come and stay with me in California. And we were not trained in any way, shape, or form. So we have to do what we know how to do it. And for the last 6 years, we've been taking care of our dad and, giving him love as much as we can do. And we have to learn our own way. So lately, since last December, my dad has been admitted to an assisted living. And because this is a community, and so I was somehow introduced to Mary Grace and come on board on this panel this morning. So I'm more than happy to share my personal experience of how we care for my dad. But I want to say that I'm still on my learning curve. I want to learn more every day. What is the best way to take care of my dad? But in the meantime, I'm happy to share anything that I learn on my way.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It's such an honor to have each one of you with us today. Well, for our next question, this is kind of getting into the bulk of our topic here, and I'll open it up to whoever would like to share on this. And so, today we're talking about what it means to have a dementia-friendly community. The folks here coming together represent community members who have memory loss, caregivers, other interested community members, and professionals that work in a variety of fields, like senior centers, health and social services, academia, parks and recs, and faith communities and cultural associations and more. And everybody here is so eager to know more about, what can we do to be more supportive to people with dementia and families in our communities. And so we're looking to you as experts in, what that personal experience is like, and how to be more supportive. So our second question is, in your personal experience, what are some of the challenges that keep you or your loved one from staying actively connected to your community? And then what kind of things help you stay connected within your community? So what are some of those barriers to staying connected while living with memory loss or caring for someone with memory loss? And then what are the things you've experienced that help you actually continue to feel a sense of belonging and connection and support within your community? And some of you have touched on this already, but I'll go ahead and open it up.
Well, I would just like to start by talking about kind of a large, kind of a global overreaching thing. Two things that have been really challenging has been, and they feed into each other. So one is the sense of embarrassment and shame that people have when they are faced that this is something that their loved one or they themselves are facing. It's almost it's like the way it used to be with cancer when I was a younger person. It was something that was hidden. There was just a great deal of stigma attached to it. And it was as though the person was wrong, the person was flawed, and this knowledge had to be hidden away. So the other side of that coin is the stigma that people feel. It's shame and stigma, but it's the stigma that people are sometimes given to feel because it's as though they're somehow flawed, that this is something that was under their volition and that they're somehow lacking in having this thing happen to them.
I don't know that I can help you anymore.
Okay.
On
All right. Never.
Sorry, Jean. Go ahead. You're speaking to stigma.
Okay. So I think that a wonderful thing that can happen and that I see happening in this community is very similar to what happened with education and knowledge around Alzheimer's dementia. But when you look back at what happened with cancer, when you look back at what happened with HIV/AIDS, when you look back at what happened with LGBTQ communities, being able to put it up and out there, as one group said, I'm out and I'm proud, and to feel like this is not abnormal in the sense of being something that you have to hide, but part of the whole journey of life for a number of people. And when you do that kind of sharing, then you realize that you are not alone. And I'm in Seattle, and so I'm also fortunate to be able to have enriched participation in programs in the community here at community centers and at senior centers, and that's important.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you so much, Jean. That's a powerful statement around, one of the, as you said, kind of global overarching factors that influence that experience of living with memory loss or being a caregiver, and that being, how society views that condition of memory loss and the stigma, and, the solution to that being able to provide education and push back around the stigma and be able to come out of hiding, so to speak, and say, I'm here, I'm a part of the community, regardless of changes within my brain, and to have that acceptance and pride as a person. Thank you. Sarah, Elsa, Gary, anything that you would like to comment on around your personal experience? What are challenges that keep you and your loved one from staying connected in the community, or what helps you stay connected? Sarah, looks like you're sharing. You want to go ahead and unmute yourself?
Mary Grace, maybe I'll share my limited experience.
Sure.
I heard what Jean mentioned about the reaction. Maybe my dad has not been having Alzheimer's for that long. In our experience, we didn't find too much stigma, misunderstanding, or embarrassment. So maybe I'm not going to the right places. We don't expose my dad to a lot of community outside of our family. But I do find that the main challenge that I face was the lack of training in learning caregiving for us as children to deal with the fact that, my beloved father, who used to be the pillar of the family, suddenly become dependent on us. So that's a shock to us. And we didn't know where to reach out to learn how to do it. So we have to learn quickly. And we have to agree amongst ourselves, between our siblings, as what we can do, our best and the right thing to help support my father so he can maintain an enjoyable and dignity for the rest of his life. That's our goal. And we were lucky enough that my dad has made some preparation prior to before he became diagnosed with this disease. And he has prepared to have legal documents. So he already made appointment of power of attorney in terms of financial and healthcare. So after he's been diagnosed, then we're not at a loss altogether. We still don't know all the ins and outs, but at least we have something to work with. So I'd like to share with other people who are trying to get this experience that they need to work with their family early on and before they are diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Because when they are diagnosed, and things can happen very quickly, and it could be very slow, but the earlier we prepare, the better. Because our population, I don't know if it's the food we eat or something, a lot of people who are very, very smart in their young age will be hit with this disease for no reason. And the mystery is we don't know how it come about, and it can hit anybody with the brightest mind. So it's a very sad thing. So to our family is just a big shock, because my father is a telecommunication engineer. He's the one who teach me how to memorize things. He has photographic memory himself. And now when he has breakfast, he can't even tell me what he had for breakfast the minute he finished it. So it's extremely difficult for our family. I look at him and I feel sad, and I thought, this is not my dad I used to grow up with. So it's a very mixed and sad emotion. So to keep him connected to the community, what the limit I know, I will call his friends and my dad's younger sister on a periodical basis, so my dad can talk to these people that he used to know. He still don't remember much, even with his best friend, even with his younger sister. He didn't remember them very well, but he is a very polite person. So hearing somebody's voice, he will carry on a conversation the best he can. And these friends feel very happy to talk to my dad, because they felt that now he's in assisted living, he's been cared for by people who respect him and who can, take care of him, and he's happy in the surrounding. One thing I can share is taking my dad to the church, because we're all Christian. And when I take my dad to the church, the churchgoers are not experts in dementia. They didn't receive any training, but being brothers and sisters in Christ, they are naturally very kind and welcoming people. So whenever the church friends see my dad, they will welcome him with open arms. They will make him feel very comfortable. They will talk to him and ask him, how you doing? They're all very kind people. So my dad will very enjoy going to church, and that's almost his only exposure to community. And other places will be seeing his primary care doctor. We'll have a geriatrician to see my dad. I take him to dentist. I take him to physical therapy to help him, reduce the chance of falling, because he has already fell twice in recent months. So these communities, they're all very loving, and I don't, experience too much stigma. So that's my limited experience.
Thank you, Elsa. Sarah, I know you were getting ready to answer that question also. You touched on some of this already in terms of your connection with the Greenwood Senior Center and the support groups there being very, very helpful, and walking programs with the Parks Department, volunteering, staying connected with friends. But anything else you'd like to share, Sarah, about in your personal experience, what challenges keep you from staying connected within your community, or what helps you stay connected in your community?
Well, right now I don't feel unconnected because I have such a great group of friends, and a book group I've been in for 30, 40 years, I guess, altogether. And we don't just read books. We do all sorts of things, and they take me places because I can't drive any longer. And that's been really helpful. But when you're talking about stigma, I was thinking about my sister, the one who has Alzheimer's, and for several years before, she's in memory care now, but for several years, I took her to all her doctor's appointments on the bus, and until she wasn't able to do that. And the bus driver we had was the same one every time. And my sister would put in her ORCA card wrong or something. She would always do something, and he'd reprimand her. And finally, on the third time he did that, I took her back and set her down, and I went up and just mentioned to him, I said, my sister has Alzheimer's. And he said, oh, I am so sorry. So the next time we rode on the bus, he was so nice to her that she said, Sarah, how come he was so nice to me? But I thought, if just one person got the message that there are people that need help, and not to be condemning or nasty to them, that I felt that it was worth having said that. So
absolutely, that's a great example. Thank you, Sarah. And Jean, you had a comment?
Yes, I wanted to say just one additional small thing about this whole knowledge thing. The truth of the matter is that oftentimes when people think about Alzheimer's, they think about it way into advanced stage, and they don't realize that it's a journey, that it's a process, that things are happening for a long time. And I think that if we can normalize talking about that would be very helpful to both those of us who are suffering or living with, and for people who really do want to be kind, but it hasn't occurred to them. They don't know.
Absolutely.
very good point.
Yeah. Gary, anything you'd like to add in terms of what's helped you and your loved ones stay connected to community, or what have been barriers there?
Yeah, and thank you, panelists, for sharing. It's just such a great opening here for this dialogue. In my case, my current journey is with my dad, who's in his early 80s. And as we understand now, he has been going through the journey of dementia for quite a few years. Started with getting confused when he would be going to a place and driving. spent a lot of time caring for my mom and very focused on her for so many years. And a lot of us didn't realize that Dad was going through this himself. Similar to what Elsa shared, my dad has a photographic memory, and he was such a strong figure for us as a family. We never thought to think that all of a sudden he might have issues. And, starting from such a high state of mind, his dementia was masked by the fact that all of a sudden, as I share with him now, I'm like, Dad, you're a mere mortal now, because, and now his memory, of course, he doesn't remember, so much what was shared, what meal he has had. But when we start looking at what has helped, I love music. My dad was a lover of music, and knowing who the person was and what brought them joy prior to the dementia or Alzheimer's journey, I think is really important. And we play music. I know what kind of music he likes. He used to be a musician himself, and it really helps him to be more grounded. And sometimes it's uncomfortable because it brings back memories, and so there's emotion, but that's also healthy. It's this really amazing journey of experience, and making the time to spend with him. And as one of his primary caregivers over time, I have the honor of helping care for him. And I come from a culture where you care for your elders, and in his case, he always made a big point. It's like, I don't want to be in a home if I can avoid it. And of course, he's always, stated, it's like, I don't want to be a burden either, but it's like, I don't want to live in a home. That's not my thing. And, the challenge in his case was he was more of a, not a super social person. My mom was the social person. And so the challenge now is that she's been gone now almost 7 years. And, a lot of his friends, he just didn't develop that ability to keep those friendships going. And so for us that are helping care for him now, it's like, those friends that we know were a part of his life, to reach out and also to give a little preface that, they may need to reintroduce themselves, and, to take away the stigma, right? And because a lot of people want to help, but they don't know how. And they're uncomfortable with somebody who repeats stories and, the presentation of dementia and what it looks like. But behind that is, once you engage somebody, it's amazing to be able to listen to them and connect with them. And even though the stories, you hear it 5 times in 5 minutes, there's still this really beautiful connection that you have. And in our case, we've been really exposing our family members to helping Dad and being present with him, not correcting him, like, just basic things about dementia. You won't correct, you redirect, you change the topic if all of a sudden he's ruminating too hard. And for me, it's been such an honor to be able to show up for him, and also to look at the community. The faith community in his case has been a great source of help as well. And at the same time, I think, as was shared before, it's like the faith community also needs to understand what it's like for dementia, and helping people who have dementia. So how can we help, and what can we do? And I think that's also a great opportunity to go into these communities where people want to do what they can, but often they don't know how. So how do we help? And so education, a big deal. And as far as our community and our larger community, to as was shared before, that taking away that stigma is a huge deal, and it needs to start young. That elders need to be a part of our lives. It's like, as a society that hides elders in homes and doesn't integrate them in community, that's a problem. And I come from the Native community. I'm a tribal member from the Aleutian region. I'm Ununga, and we, as our traditional values, we care for elders. Elders are to be esteemed and cared for, and in community. And it's so good for them as well as for us to be able to have that connection. And I feel like that's an area of opportunity, so that when we grow up, we understand that this is a normal part of aging for some of us. And should we get there, we will have support systems, and we will have a community that cares for us and holds us and supports us. And that helps family, because it's like, I do feel like there is a lot of stigma for families still to this day. If you have a family member who is on the dementia journey, it's very difficult. And I think we who are caregivers also need the support too, because it's very stressful. to hold space and to worry. Like I worry, like the journey of taking the car, like in our case, the battery is disconnected from his car. Because in the end, just having his car in the garage and his key in his pocket is comforting to him. So we do that. But he can't use his car because it's dangerous, right? And wandering, and how do we protect him? Because in the end, he's still in his home. He has supports that come into his house, and that's his choice. But I do feel like, how do we help people in a way that still keeps them safe and protected and decreases our worry? And not saying going into a home is a bad choice. It's just in our case, we've been able to bring support into his home because just honoring his choice. He's like, I don't want to go into a facility if I can avoid it. But it is a journey that, we're learning a lot as we go. And I feel like so much of this has to happen when you're young, to where we normalize aging, that this is going to be many of us, and we care for each other. And I think that's really important as a society to love on our elders throughout their entire lifetime. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. We have one more question for the panel, but I want to pause for a minute and just see, Jean, Sarah, Elsa, if there anything else you want to add in based on what you've heard from each other so far around what helps you stay connected within community or the barriers to staying connected. Okay. All right. Well, our third question is, and we've been touching on this too, but what does a dementia-friendly community mean to you, and what does it look like? What does a dementia-friendly community mean to you, and what does it look like? So I'll offer that up to any of our panelists that would like to comment.
Maybe I'll mention some of my learning. To me, a dementia-friendly community is a place where there are professionals who are trained to have the understanding about the mental problems with dementia patients, and they provide good support in all practical areas. And it would be really helpful if there's some more training in caregiving that will be available and be provided to immediate family members. So as firsthand, they can learn how to help their loved ones without having to scramble, because we did. And some may learn through their mistake before they get it right. And by caregiving, what I meant is not just communicating to the dementia patients, although how to communicate with them is very critical. What I meant is a more macro level, including preparation in all areas, including legal, financial planning, etc. And they have to be prepared in advance before the early stage, so they can be prepared when the dementia started. In my journey of learning how to care for my father, there are some useful websites which I could share with the panelists. And these are very common, maybe you've all encountered it. There's a Alzheimer's.gov website, and there is a National Institute on Aging website where they provide a lot of information for caregiving. So that's where I picked up some of the things that I can do to help my dad. But it would be really grateful if there are more training available for immediate family to start with. So that's my key point.
Thank you, Elsa. How about you, Sarah?
I was just going to say that I don't know where you live, but for instance, the Greenwood Senior Center has a very active caregiver support group. Not just for those of us who have, memory problems, but for the families. And so I don't know if that's something that you could see. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you, Sarah. I'm from California, and my dad is in Seattle. So normally my brother also lives in Seattle, but he's very, very busy. Um, he when my dad is staying with him, and I'm not saying bad things about him, he can only feed my dad 3 meals and have a bed for him and his own room to sleep in. So he really haven't got a lot of time to learn how to deal with senior with dementia. So I come up to Seattle at least 1 week of every month, except for the COVID period. So I try to do the best I can. And I think in my difficulty is I didn't have any of knowledge about what's available for dementia patients or their caregivers. So that's my downfall. So, and I try to find things like that in California, and I just find it hard to have this support because, as several of you mentioned, being caregivers, we need support because honestly, they need 24/7 help. And there's only so much we can do. So actually, by the end of the 6th year, both my brother and I, we're exhausted. That's why we have to take him to assisted living, where they have 3 shifts of people. They have cleaners, they have chef, they have nurse, they have caregivers. And we were playing all these roles on our own 24/7. And we're really exhausted. And Gary, it's so good that you can still care for your dad in your home. And that is very good. And I really didn't want to take my dad to assisted living, but I just reached the end of my tether. I can't do it anymore. And even when he's in assisted living right now, we have a camera so we can watch what he's doing when he's in the room. Most of the time he's downstairs and he's mixing with other residents, and I don't watch him at that time because I have no way of watching him. But when he's in his own room and I saw that he's confused, and I'll call him right away and I'll ask him, Dad, what are you looking for? And he said, oh, I'm looking for my pajamas. And I said, okay, that would be on the 3rd drawer. Then he'll go there and he'll get it. So I can help him that way. Because when they are alone, that's the most dangerous time. When they're alone, they didn't know what to do. And if nobody helped them, they would do silly things. My dad will, may go out in the middle of the night. And so I actually watch him until very late at night, because sometimes I saw him in the middle of the night. He'll change into day clothes and he'll go downstairs. And, it's very dangerous for him. So, but the caregivers in the assisted living, they're very loving. So if they see that with my dad, they will, gently explain to him, it's the middle of the night, you need to go back to your room, and they'll put him back to bed. And sometimes, because I don't know if your loved ones have this problem, but my dad has, he need to go to the bathroom very frequently. And when he get up in the middle of the night, his BP drop, and then he's lightheaded, and he has fell several times when he was going to the bathroom. So I have to watch him even at night and make sure that he doesn't fall. If he does, which happened, I will call the caregivers to come in and help him to get up and see if he's injured or, any way we can help him. So, back to the point of getting community support. I need to seek more of those. And because our church has very loving people. They will go and visit my dad every week, although I'm not there all the time. They'll come and, pray with him, talk to him, and make him feel that he's being cared for. And when I'm out of town, I call my dad several times a day and make sure he feel that he's being loved. We love him. And that's very important. Although he might forget other things, but the feeling of knowing that he's being loved is so important.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Elsa.
Thank you.
Piggybacking on
Go
what
ahead.
Elsa was saying, I think it can't be emphasized enough how much there needs to be a lot of support for the care partners, for the family members, because it is just as exhausting as she has said, and it's not possible to even explain. And in all communities, I think, and especially in communities of color, there is a strong culture of you take care of your elders, and there's also oftentimes a sense that, please promise me you won't ever put me in a nursing home. Please promise me you won't put me away in one of those things. And sometimes we make promises that we're not able to keep, or it's at great cost to ourselves that we keep them. And so we need to have time to be able to regroup, to recharge as well.
And I would add too, thank you for your sharing this. It's such good stuff. And, it's a journey of a day to day, like hour by hour, minute by minute sometimes. And you have to be in that moment. And it is very stressful. Just the worry in your mind. And, as Elsa was sharing, the falling, the things that can happen. And I really feel like, we need to dial back and start to prepare early on and normalize having an advance directive, normalize having what your wishes are should you end up going down the journey of dementia and other chronic diseases, so that your family and everyone that loves you and supports you knows what your wishes are and what will be helpful. And we're all different personalities. And, some of us would love to be in an assisted living home or a nursing home where we would have all that social time, right? And some of these facilities are amazing. And we should offer more tours and opportunities for folks to say, this isn't something that you dread. This isn't like an institution of years ago of a sanatorium that's this horrible place. These are amazing places
Yes.
that elders can thrive and have music programs and social. Some of my other family members who are in senior homes or housing, to where they have all this infrastructure that helps them to thrive, and it helps slow the process as well, because that socialization and that connection and the nutrition and the hydration, things that happen to us as we forget. Like my dad will drink 20 cups of coffee in a day but not drink water, and so dehydration's an issue. So we have to bring in IV therapy a couple of times a month to help get him back on track. But I would say helping us be prepared as younger people, and normalizing the fact that we're going to get older. Should we be graced to get older, right? It's a blessing. And the journey of dementia doesn't have to be doom and gloom either. We have a lot of fun with my dad. I mean, it's like on certain levels, the fact that, he doesn't stew on things. He used to ruminate so much on things and he was so worried. And now he doesn't remember often to worry. So, for the most part, the silver lining is it's like, for the most part, he goes to bed at night and everything's done for the day. And I guess I did everything I was supposed to do. And he really appreciates, one thing I want to put out is like, simple things, going for a drive, getting outside, going out to dinner. And for many of us, back to the stigma, we don't want to have our elder or loved one exposed to an environment where he might get, or she might get judged. I'm like, bring elders out to dinner that have dementia, because what, society needs to understand this is a part of us. And we are a part of that whole journey of accepting and loving on people. And then let's start talking about, how do you approach somebody with dementia? And the kindness and a hug, for those of us who are huggers. Some of us aren't huggers, so understand that too. But just the fact that, we can support each other and be there for each other, and to really, for those of us who are going through the journey as caregivers, primary caregivers, to understand that there's to support those too. We need support. We need we need people to care for us, saying, hey, have you had a break yet? When was the last time you had some personal time? Because many of us, not only are we caring for our parents or our elders, but we have, like in our case, we have a 4-year-old in our house. So, there's a lot of responsibility, and we need support too. And we need, just a comforting call. It's like, hey, how are you doing? Call up and support those who are going through this journey, because it's a day-by-day thing, and it can be very, very challenging. But also a lot of joy too. It isn't all doom and gloom. There's a lot of joy.
Thank you. Jean?
Yes, and there's an elephant in the room here that I want to talk about. Good care, good facilities, good support. All of these things are very expensive. And we as a society, a dementia-friendly community to me is a society, a neighborhood, a community where that is a priority for our elders. Those of us here who are talking seem to have been fortunate in having planning and having resources. I remember that one of my siblings, who was a physician, and her whole family was turned upside down to go and take care of the father, who was in the Midwest, and she brought her two children. Her husband is very involved in his research. She brought her 2 children and put them in school there. She also was working while she was there at practicing as an OBGYN, and she became guardian ad litem for her father. And it was very, very hard, and it's extremely expensive. And part of the fear that sometimes that elders have has to do with their remembering what it's like to go into a place where you don't have much funds, and so you don't get much service. And we can turn that around. And I'm a visionary, so I'm always talking about the village in the Netherlands, where not only is it a wonderful place, but the people are integrated into the community. They're seen as part of the community. So this is a challenge for us.
Thank you so much, Gary, Jean, Sarah, Elsa. We're going to wrap up our panel time right now, and I want to just give my heartfelt gratitude to each of you for having the courage to speak from your own personal experience in order to shed light and understanding for the rest of us. So thank you for what you shared, the inspiration and vision and specific details around what it's really like on the ground, living with memory loss or caring for someone with memory loss. I'm going to turn it back over to Mary Eck from Dementia Friendly America to wrap things up in the next 5 minutes and reflections on what we've heard. So Mary, you want to go ahead?
Yes, thanks, Mary Grace. And wow, thank you to our panelists. I was taking notes while you were sharing your stories and your thoughts on what it means to be dementia friendly and what kind of support you would like to see for your loved ones and for yourselves. And I just, as a caregiver myself, and Gary, someone who is caring for in-laws as well as my own children, it is difficult. But I'd like to steal your quote, Gary. The journey of dementia doesn't have to be doom and gloom. When I think about dementia-friendly communities, we are caring for people living with dementia and their care partners. And in caring, in becoming dementia-friendly, we are helping caregivers, providing respite, providing opportunities for real engagement, for joy, for opportunities to work, to volunteer. That brings support to the caregiver, as well as providing meaningful engagement for the person living with dementia, all of which, puts the care partner at ease and helps them feel like they can go into community and engage and be met at the restaurant by a server who will have patience and will talk through the menu, or just give the grace that the situation might call for. You know, we often talk about living well with dementia, and a dementia-friendly community fosters that. It doesn't see dementia as gloom and doom. And, you know, we have to start educating people. There is dementia can be a very long journey with different stages and different abilities and opportunities to engage. And I think by increasing our awareness, by educating, by reducing the stigma, so that we can normalize those conversations, those hard conversations about advanced planning, about the legal side, the financial side, and how to prepare. And of course, you know, we always hear, you know, I don't want to talk about that. That makes me sad, or that's not going to happen, or we don't mention that, and all of the stigma that we've all been a part of. But if we can raise awareness and normalize those conversations, it supports the entire community, even those providing the services to people living with dementia and care partners. Elsa, you talked a lot about the training, and if there was more training for professionals as well as for just children of people living with dementia who are providing care in the home. And I think we are on our way, and we're seeing more opportunities for education. But I think even simply our Dementia Friends program that starts with children, teaching people how to recognize the signs of dementia, how to respond to those in a caring and compassionate way, and to not be afraid. Gary, you talked about just the joy of engaging with a person living with dementia if you know how, and if it's talked about and normalized. Those are all part of our dementia friendly effort, is teaching how to embrace people living with dementia and care partners, and that respite piece, and bringing that comfort to the care partner, knowing that they can go to the grocery store, they can go to the bank, and know that they will be welcomed and helped when needed, or accommodations will be made to make their experience more pleasant. Just looking, I had so much. It was just so many takeaways from here. I think, you know, I'll be talking more in our later session about the tools that we have for training sectors. We talked a lot about the faith sector and and how faith communities are often a place where people living with dementia and care partners can go and find comfort in the routine and the familiarity. And you know, we talk about training a sector and on being dementia friendly, but really when it comes down to it, it's about attitude and awareness and just being kind. You know, someone has a need and we meet that need. And, you know, we hear that phrase, you know, you've met one person living with dementia, you've met one person living with dementia. There is no, you know, set guideline of what it's going to look like and what the need is going to be. But we do know that they need to be welcomed. They need a compassionate response. They need to be embraced, and they need to know that they are welcome to engage and live and thrive in community. And so I think, you know, in the end, we can have all of these resources, but I think the goal of Dementia Friendly America and creating dementia friendly communities is using these resources, using you know, Dementia Friends, using opportunities of people living with dementia sharing their experiences, and care partners sharing the needs that they have, so that people feel more equipped to walk toward people living with dementia rather than away. And you're helping us do that. Our panelists today have shared real stories, and you are at the heart of this work, and you inform the work that we do. So I want to thank you again, just from the bottom of my heart, for sharing your stories and helping us know how we can support you on your journeys. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary, so much for wrapping that up for us. Let's share. I've seen a lot of things in the chat already, but let's share a virtual round of applause for these folks for kicking things off for us today and setting the stage. Thank you so much, Mary, Gary, Elsa, Jean, Sarah. Thank you so very much.